Hello everyone. In this video, I am going to teach you everything you need to know about Python dictionary. And we are going to cover 9 must-know methods for a Python dictionary. First, let us see how we can create a Python dictionary. So let's say data is equal to, and we need to give the symbol curly braces, and inside this we need to pass our data in key value pairs. So let's create a key named as name, and the value will be, let's say, John. And let's create a key age, and the value will be 43. And you see the different values are separated by a comma. This is just like a JSON. Next, let us see the first method, which is the get method. So in get method, you need to pass the key for which you need to get the value. So let's say print data dot get, and inside this you need to pass the key whose value you want. So let's pass the key as name and save this, and let's run the code and let's see what is the output. So let's say python 3 and dict guide, enter. So you see the value is John, which is the value of the key name. Now there is another way how you can fetch the value of a particular key, which is this one. So you have to say print data, and then you have to use the square braces, and inside this you need to pass the key name. So let's pass the key as name again and save this, and let's run the code, and this time we are getting John 2 times. Now what is the advantage of dot get method as compared to this one is, let's say you want to fetch a key which is not there in the data. So in this case what will happen? So let's call it as name1, and for this method also let's pass it as name1 and save it, and let's run the code again. When you run the code, you can see that with the dot get method we are getting none, but with this method of fetching a key you are getting an error. So this is the difference. Using the get method you will not get an error, but you will get a none, because name1 key doesn't exist in our data. And what more you can do is you can pass a default value. So just say comma, and this will be your default value. So let's say default name. Okay, save this and run the code. So when you run the code, you can see the output is default name, but in this case we are again getting an error. So that is all about dot get method. So let's comment it and let's see what's the second method. The next method is data dot keys. Now this dot keys method will return you an object called as dict key, and dict key is like a list, and this list will contain name and age, that is all the keys which are there in your data, which is your dictionary. So let's run the code and see. Okay, we are not printing it, let's print it. So print data dot keys and enter, and this time you are getting dict keys object, and the data inside this is like a list, and the list contains all the keys, name and age, and this way you can fetch all the keys, right? Now there is another method which is very similar to this, but this is to fetch the values and not the keys. So I have copied this code, and this time let's comment the dot keys, and instead of dot keys let's pass dot values. Save this, and this time you will get dict values object, and the values are John and 43, which are the values inside your data, which is your dictionary. And before we move into the next method, let me tell you the rules which you need to follow when you are assigning a key. So when you create a key, your key should be immutable data type. It means data type like string, tuple or a number. Example, you can say 1:100 and save this and run your code. You will not get any error. You can also assign a key as a tuple. So your key can be a tuple like 1, 2 is your tuple and the value is 200. Save this and run the code and you will not get any error. But your key cannot be a list because list is a mutable data type. So let's see an example. 1, 2, 3 colon 300, and save this and run the code, and this time you are getting an error, and the error is type error, which is unhashable type list. So list is an unhashable data type, which is a immutable data type. So in very brief I will tell you what's mutable and what's immutable. If the value in a data can be changed, then that is a mutable data type, and that cannot be used as a key in a dictionary. So you can change the values inside a list but cannot change a value inside a tuple. Cannot change this value, one cannot be changed, right? When you change the value, the object itself changes, right? Here also in a string, when you change its value, a new string is created, and this particular string which is assigned in a memory doesn't change. There is a new memory created for it. So that's a deep concept, but for now you need to understand that strings, numbers or tuples can be used as a keys in a dictionary. Save this, clear the console, and let's see the next method, which is dot update. So what is dot update? First let's remove this, that is an error, and let's see the method dot update. So right now if you print your data, which is your dictionary, and run the code, you will get your data like name is John, age is 43, 100, and 1 2 double is 200. But what if you want to update the age? So what you need to do is you need to say data, then you need to pass the key which is age and pass the value as 44. Save this and run the code again, and this time you will see the age is 44, and this is one way of updating the value. There is a method assigned for this which is called dot update, and in this case what you need to do is you need to say data dot update. Inside this method you need to pass another dictionary. So let's create a dictionary, and inside this let's pass age as 45. Save this and run again, and you will see the age is 45 now. And the advantage of this method is this method can be used to add more keys as well. So you can pass an existing key, and you can pass another key like gender as male, right? Save this and clear the console and run the code again, and you can see that we have gender as male here as well. So this method can only update one value at a time, but using dot update method you can update an existing key as well as add another key. So that's all about dot update method. Let's see the next method. So let's comment the code, and let's come back to our data dictionary, and the next method is items. Let's first print it and then understand it. So print data dot items. Okay, this is your data and this is data dot items. Okay, I need to call this as a method and save this, and let's run the code. And when you run the code you will get dict items object, and this looks like a list, and this list will have all your key values in a form of a tuple. So you can see the first key is name, the value is John. So the first value in this list is a tuple, and this tuple is having name as the first value and John as the second value. Similarly, there is another tuple for age and 43. There is another tuple for 1 and 100, and there is another tuple which is having the first value as another tuple, which is this one, that is the key 1 comma 2, and the value as 200. So when you call the dot items method, it will return dict items with a which is like a list, and this list will contain tuples in, and this tuple will have two values. The first will be the key and the second will be the value. So that's all about dot items method. Let's see the next method. The next method is set default. Let's first see the method and then understand it. So we have to say data dot set default, and in the set default you need to pass a key and a value. So let's pass a key like age and comma value as 50. Save this, and in this case let's print the data. Let's save it and run the code, and when you run the code you will see that nothing happened, right? And why so? Set default method accepts two parameters, a key and a value. It checks that if the key is already there, then it doesn't do anything, but if the key is not present in the data, then in that case it adds this particular key value in your data dictionary. So since age is already there, it didn't do anything, but let's call it as gender, and we can see gender is not there, and let's pass the value as male and save this. And now if you run the code you will see that this is added here. So that's about set default method, and make sure you know one thing, that this is different from update. In update the value gets updated, right? This was your update method and the value got updated, but in case of set default it will not update the value if the key is already there. It will only create a new key pair value if this key is not there in your data dictionary, right? So this is something you need to remember. Let's clear the console and see the next method. The next method is dot pop. So let's say data dot pop, and inside pop you need to pass a key. And what this pop method will do, it will delete this key from your data. So now let's print the data, and you will see we will not have age in our output because we have popped out age from the data. And if you pass a key which is not there in your data, then in that case you will find an error, that is key error. So you need to make sure that the key exists to call this method. So you need to make sure that the key which you are trying to pop should exist in your data, otherwise it will throw key error. Alright, let's clear the console and let's see the next method. The next method is pop item. So let's call this method pop item. Save this code and run the code. When you run the code, you will notice that the last key which is inserted in your data is not there in your output. The reason is pop item method removes the last inserted key. Okay, so that's different from pop. Pop will remove the key which you have specified, but pop item will just remove the last inserted key. Alright, let's comment it and let's see the last method which we have for this tutorial, and that is dot clear. So let's call this method data dot clear. Save this and run the code again, and in this case you are getting an output as empty dictionary. Now what this dot clear does, it just removes all the key and values, that's it. So in case you need to delete all the key and values, just call dot clear method. So that's all about Python dictionary, and we have seen different methods which are like total 9 methods we have seen. And if you are using Python dictionary, you will mostly be using all these 9 methods. So I hope this video explains you everything about Python dictionary, and if this video helps you in any way, just make sure that you hit that like button, and if you're on the channel for the first time, then make sure you subscribe it as well. And I will see you in a new video. Thank you for watching.